The black iron gates of the villa creaked open as Ethan Cole's car rolled into the driveway, headlights cutting across the marble fountain he'd stopped noticing years ago. The house sat high above the coast of Malibu, California, quiet and perfect, just the way his life looked from the outside. He stepped out of the car, loosening his tie, already thinking about the emails waiting on his phone. Then he froze. The lights inside the villa were on. Ethan frowned. He never left lights on, and he hadn't scheduled any staff for the evening. As he walked closer, he heard the faint sound of a vacuum, steady and careful, like someone trying not to disturb the house itself. Before we go any further, pause for a second. If you're watching this story from your phone, your TV, or your laptop, take a moment to subscribe and drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. Stories like this are about kindness, and sometimes sharing them is the first act of kindness. Ethan pushed the door open quietly. The smell of lemon cleaner filled the air, sharp and clean, replacing the usual emptiness of the place. His shoes echoed against the marble floor as he stepped inside, his eyes scanning the room. That's when he saw her. She was on her knees near the coffee table, wiping the floor with slow, careful movements. Her dark hair was tied back in a loose bun, and she wore a faded cardigan over her waitress uniform. A bucket of water sat beside her, along with a folded towel. She looked small in the massive living room, like she didn't belong there at all. "Excuse me," Ethan said, his voice firm but confused. "What are you doing here?" She startled, nearly knocking over the bucket. She stood up quickly, her face going pale when she recognized him. I'm so sorry, sir," she said, her voice trembling. "I didn't hear you come in. I'll leave right away." Ethan studied her face, and recognition hit him like a quiet wave. "You work at the diner," he said slowly. "The one on Pacific Coast Highway." She nodded, gripping the towel in her hands. "Yes, my name is Lily." He remembered now. She was the waitress who always brought his coffee exactly the way he liked it, never rushed him, never asked who he was. She'd spoken to him like he was just another tired man passing through. "And how did you get into my house?" he asked, trying to keep his tone calm. Lily swallowed. "The side gate was open," she said softly. "I didn't break anything." "I promise." "That still doesn't explain why you're cleaning my villa," Ethan replied, his confusion growing. She hesitated, her eyes flicking toward the staircase, then back to him. "I wasn't going to take anything," she said quickly. "I just wanted to help." "Help?" Ethan repeated. Lily nodded, tears starting to gather in her eyes. "At the diner last week? You left your phone behind. I ran after you, but you were already gone. When I opened it to find a contact, I saw the emergency alert on the screen." Ethan's chest tightened. He hadn't told anyone about that. "You saw what?" he asked. "The reminder," she said quietly. Today would have been Anna's birthday. The name landed between them like something fragile breaking. Ethan looked away, his jaw tightening. "That was none of your business." "I know," Lily said quickly. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to pry, but I noticed how empty you looked after that. And then yesterday, when you came into the diner, you said you were heading home, but didn't sound like you wanted to." He turned back to her, anger flickering briefly before fading into exhaustion. "So you decided to break into my house?" "No," she said, shaking her head. "I decided to clean it." He stared at her, unsure if he'd heard correctly. "My mom used to say that when a place gets too quiet, the dust isn't the problem." Lily continued softly, "It's the sadness. Cleaning doesn't fix grief, but it makes space to breathe." Ethan laughed once, bitter and sharp. "You barely know me." "No," she agreed. "But I know what it looks like when someone lives inside a memory instead of a home." Silence filled the room again, heavier than before. Ethan noticed details he'd ignored: the untouched piano in the corner, the framed photo on the wall, covered in a thin layer of dust. Anna's smile stared back at him, frozen in time. "You shouldn't be here," he said, but the words lacked force. "I'll leave," Lily said, bending to grab her things. "I just wanted to finish the living room." "Why?" he asked suddenly. She paused, then answered without looking at him. "Because you always tip well, even when you don't smile. And because last month, when my son was sick and I couldn't pay the electric bill, you left enough to keep our lights on. You didn't know it, but that night, you came home to a dark house, and I didn't." Ethan felt something crack inside his chest. "My wife used to clean when she was anxious," he said quietly. "She said it made her feel useful when she couldn't fix what hurt." Lily straightened slowly. "Then maybe that's why I'm here." He walked past her, stopping in front of the photo. Anna's eyes seemed warmer now, less distant. "You didn't have to do this," he said. "I wanted to," Lily replied. "Kindness isn't something you owe. It's something you choose." Ethan turned back to her, his eyes wet despite himself. For the first time in years, the villa didn't feel like a monument to loss. It felt lived in. Outside, the ocean breeze brushed against the windows, carrying the faint sound of waves. Inside, two strangers stood in the quiet aftermath of a simple act that neither of them yet understood would change both their lives forever. Ethan stood in the living room long after Lily stopped speaking, the silence no longer sharp but thoughtful, like a pause before something important. He looked around the space again and realized it wasn't spotless. It was cared for. The cushions were fluffed, the windows wiped just enough to let the ocean light in, the cold perfection softened by human attention. "You don't have to leave right now," he said finally, surprising himself. Lily looked up, uncertain. "I don't want to make you uncomfortable." "You're not," Ethan replied. "This house has been uncomfortable for years." She gave a small, hesitant smile and set the cleaning cloth down. Ethan walked toward the kitchen, then stopped. "Have you eaten?" Lily shook her head. "I came straight from my shift." "Then stay," he said, "at least for dinner." They ate at the long dining table that usually sat empty. The food was simple pasta from the pantry, bread warmed in the oven, but it felt like more than enough. Conversation came slowly at first, careful and polite, but then Lily mentioned her son, Noah, and how he loved collecting broken toys just to see how they worked. "He says fixing things makes him feel brave," she said, smiling sadly. Ethan nodded. Anna used to say something similar. She believed broken things weren't useless just waiting. The words settled between them gently. For the first time, he talked about his wife without the familiar ache taking over. Lily listened without interrupting, her eyes kind, never pitying. When dinner was over, Lily stood. "I should go." Ethan hesitated, then said, "Can I ask you something?" "Of course. Would you come back?" "Not to clean," he added quickly. "Just to talk. This place feels less empty when someone's in it." Lily considered him for a moment, then nodded. "I'd like that." Days turned into weeks. Lily visited after her shifts, sometimes bringing Noah, who immediately fell in love with the echoing halls and the old piano. Ethan found himself laughing again, teaching the boy how to play simple notes, watching Lily smile from the doorway. One evening, as Lily prepared to leave, Ethan handed her an envelope. "I can't accept this," she said, opening it to see a check that could change her life. "It's not charity," Ethan replied gently. "It's gratitude and an opportunity. I want to fund Noah's education, and yours, if you want to study again." Tears filled Lily's eyes. "Why?" "Because you walked into my life when you had nothing to gain," he said. "And because kindness saved me when money couldn't." Months later, the villa no longer felt like a shrine to grief. It became a home filled with laughter, music, and quiet evenings shared on the terrace. Ethan realized love hadn't left him when Anna did. It had simply changed shape. One night, Standing under the stars, Lily reached for his hand. "You don't have to be alone anymore," she said softly. Ethan squeezed her fingers. "Neither do you." In choosing kindness, they found healing. In choosing love, they found family. And in opening his door to a waitress with a brave heart, a billionaire discovered that the richest moments in life can never be bought.